This is the Dixie Highway. It wasn't Maney Avenue, it was Dixie Highway. And it was named Maney Avenue behind the oak they got out there at the Oaklands. That's why it went through here, but this was the Dixie Highway. This was from Chicago to Miami. That's what this road was. From Vine Street over to what's now Broad Street, this was all black area. This was all black. There's a lot of businesses on this street. I guess the first one would be where JD's is. That was Delridge grocery store right there. This corner right there where that service station is, there was a black service station. It was owned by James Scott. That vacant lot down there, that was even grocery was in there. That was a grocery store. And then across the street where Fans, that was Lane's Cleaners. Bob Lane had a cleaners there. I think it's a beauty shop there. Then that corner right there where Fan is was Puck's service station. Puck's service station was in this building right here. Behind us, he moved down the street. Charles' house cleaners was down there where Scales Funeral Home. It moved in this building right here, but that was the service station. This house across the street was Peyton Grocery Store. It was a grocery store. This building we in here was Ed Morrison Motors, sold Studebakers. It was originally on Vine Street and it moved around here. From State Street all the way down to Vine was all black. You got Untitled Chapter Church. There was houses in there where those apartments are now, which Farrell Brothers built. All that was housing in there. All these people who lived in this area owned these homes. They wasn't renting, they was owned. And then all the people that couldn't afford to buy a home, they moved them into projects. The project was built over there in probably 54, 55 when they built those projects. When they tore this out to put Broad Street in, all the teachers from Bradley lived across the street from Bradley. So they created Johnson Street, which is in front of the new Bradley now. So all the teachers moved over there. This area right below us down there, which off Academy, which is Spring Street, that was all black area. They called that the bottom, the black bottom. That's what that was called. It's black folk live down there now. It's down there now where I guess City Tile is right there now. That was Wasco Brown. But black business was down there. You had Dr. Patterson, he was a dentist. He had an office down there. The First Baptist Church, the one on Castle, was down there. They had a daycare center down there. There was a restaurant around there. Johnny Murray's barber shop was down there. And when the city came through there and put Broad Street through, they tore all that out because it flooded every time it rained down there. Kilgore Funeral Home was round on Academy. Scales was right here. Most of this was businesses. Mr. Martin Benford, up there where Ted's car wash, Mr. Martin Benford had a service station there. It was Benford Service Station. It was two black service stations on this street. This was kind of the backbone of the community here. You know, I mean, there was a lot going on in here. But at that time, you know, most people strived to have their own business because the only thing around here was sharecropping. They was farming around here.
We moved back from the country down on Castle Street. And my daddy sold wood and coal. And we used to push cart and serve people around here in town. Then we moved up on the hill, which was up on Condo Academy and Castle. He sold ice and coal and wood. And the only transportation that we had or anybody else was he would get his truck and put a bench upon the truck and carrying people to the associations in Nashville and around different places, which everybody enjoyed. He done that for several years. And Finally, there was no way for the kids to get to high school. He kept asking, if I have to say it, to get a bus. No, they couldn't let him run a bus. So he got a bus and started running the bus his own self. And the parents paid him to bring their kids to high school. So he ran that route all around up around Eagleville and Rockville, over, clear on back down to a school called Nevills School, and then we'd come into Holloway. He done that for several years till he got sick and he retired. So when he retired, the only thing for me to do was to quit work so I could drive the bus. So I drove the bus. So I drove for about 30 years, or a little better. And then my sister have taken it over, and she's driving for me. And of course, now I done got so old and I wouldn't buy another bus. So she's driving for somebody else, but still driving the same route. I didn't want to let it go, but none of the boys wouldn't take it up. So, because that was my daddy's trade. He had to run that bus and run that coal truck and would go to the mine, get the coal and all that. And because he never had a job. I mean, he made his own living, own jobs, and that's the way we was living. I was really the first black woman bus driver in Murfreesboro. Nobody else, no, I was ashamed to drive it first because I didn't want to be driving a truck. But after I started driving, then everybody's driving. So everybody's driving there and enjoy it.
Well, Maney Avenue wasn't the big paved street like it is today. And so many people walked, especially African American. And they would come down this way and walk through the cemetery going to downtown to shop. It was very, very few cars. I think an African American, you could count on fingers how many cars there were, and everybody talked to everybody. You know, if you on the street, you know, it's not like now. 1916 was the beginning of my husband's mother and father opened a funeral home. They actually went to the home and embalmed the bodies, and then left the bodies in the home, took a casket to the home, and had the layout of the corpse at the home. And that was really, and sometimes they would have the funeral, especially in the county. They would put chairs in the backyard and have the funeral, you know. So a lot has changed in this industry. It was like a social hour in our community, and people would sit up all night with, they call it a wake, you know. They didn't start using the funeral home with wakes and things like that for many, many years. They would take the bodies home. My husband is our business. He thought of us as a service. I mean, everybody would laugh and say, it's good his head was attached to his body. He'd give that away. He really was a community man. If someone died, children didn't have a coat or shoes to wear to the funeral, he'd, you know, buy them the coat and the shoes. And we have sacrificed sending so many young people to college. I said, Scales, we can't do that. You know? Oh, Mary, we'll do it. And so we've paid many of students tuition to college and encouraged young people to do.
The Maney Avenue project was really something that the Planning Commission undertook about 10 years ago. They started a study, look at ways to make improvements to the area, look at ways to help some of the attract folks to come down to the area and to visit some of the businesses. Of course, one of the ways that much like any urban area, it's very tight parking-wise. We had a fairly wide street there, so they saw some possibilities of an improvement with the parking, adding some on-street parking, and really wanting to give folks a place where they could come down, park, and then walk around to the businesses that comprises a lot of the South Maney Avenue area. Anytime you want to try to make a more pedestrian-friendly area, you want to include things like wider sidewalks, better lighting, pedestrian-level lighting, include plaza areas, and then also added some elements like crosswalks. They also looked at some landscape elements. We knew we had an existing drainage problem down there, really a serious drainage problem where we actually had water getting into businesses and to one of the local churches in that area. And that's something we take seriously. We do not want to see people have repetitive property damage. So what we did was, okay, we've got this drainage problem, but we've also got the study in ways to revitalize the area. So we wanted to look and see if there was some way that we could kind of match the two, and really what we think is going to be one of the most unusual things about this project, and that's the porous pavers. We saw the opportunity to add something that was aesthetically pleasing, but at the same time that was functional for us, and we did that with the pavers. And really think that's going to, it's really the most aggressive drainage system that the city has constructed to date. We want it to be a hub, a centerpiece of the city that folks want to come down to. We want to make it comfortable for them to be able to come to. We want it to be where they feel like that they're safe as far as vehicular traffic, and really we want it to be a destination for folks to come to that area, to visit the business, and really to see the history of it.
The thought was for the city to invest in the upgrading the infrastructure, and then once that happened, then we could promote some economic development of a different kind of, and maybe bring some services back to the area that had either left or like Mid-Cumberland. Mid-Cumberland was at Bradley, and they serve a lot of low-income folks with heating assistance and insulation and all kinds of services they provide. A lot of the folks that need that service live right over in that particular area or on that side of town. So we're looking at trying to do something to get them back over somewhere in a better location and more accessible. And without the upgrade to Maney Avenue, that probably wasn't going to happen. Habitat, and they've been really aggressive over in that area of town, and really all over town, but really over there. There's no telling how many homes or lots they've purchased and torn down existing structures that were non-conforming, really. You know, because older homes just don't have the insulation in the walls, you know, the windows are not that tight. I mean, you know, so one of the things that we did, we were able to convince the CDBG program to go in and inspect these homes, and if you couldn't bring them up to today's standards, just tear them down. You tear down this structure, you build back another structure. It may be a smaller structure, I found out, but it's a more efficient structure. They got brand new heat in there, the walls are insulated, you can maintain your electric bills, your gas bills a little better. A lot of older people live over there. And you know, they don't get out much, but when they do, they shouldn't have to go out here and fight all this traffic out here, like we have now. They need to have it where, you know, they might go right down the street or go, you know, down in that neighborhood and get some of those services back that used to be there back in the day, if there's a demand for them. I was raised in the projects over there. They call them Highland Heights now. We just call them the old projects back in the day. And the unit that we lived in is the one where the police precinct is now, right beside Patterson. So a person like me, I know what it used to be like. And we had a good time growing up, don't get me wrong. Some of the best times of my life was growing up and playing in them little fields out there where there's a parking lot now. But to see that center, a $15+ million investment plus the upgrade to Bradley's elementary school, then what the county's doing with Holloway, you know, then you got the housing that's coming along. The housing authority just upgraded Highland Heights. So there's some exciting things going on in that particular part of town.
It's better now than it once was. And I'm looking in the future for it to be even better once they get the construction finished. I was on the board on the Maney Avenue study when they was talking about plans doing the street here for about 8 years. And now they just begin to do it. But I see it being better in the future than what it was. I think once it's finished, it's gonna make business here improve. A lot of folks gonna like how the scenery gonna be down that street, and they're gonna put little shrubberies and thing up. And we have tourist people probably coming through this area. They will increase business. See, right now, they looking down maybe 10 or 15 years down the road. I might not be living in, but it'd be better for this community, what they're doing. While tourists and different customers here, they have benches for them to sit. They're gonna have little trees while they wanna be out in the sun. And they're gonna have some old vendors to come in, set up shop down the study, make it better. The ones that's still in business, they will help the business. It's gonna draw people in this area that don't even live here. You got the Scrubber Center. It'll be some people from there be visiting the Scrubber Centers will probably come up and get the hair cut. Some ladies will probably get their hair fixed. So in the long run, it's gonna make it better.
Here, when I first moved over here, and then, you know, here was a barber shop, and then Next door was a beauty shop, and then Briley was over there. And everything seemed like it was just, you know, a good business up down through here, you know. And so that's when I came over here. That's what, you know, I looked at. I said, well, okay, maybe I can, you know, prosper over here. And so when I came over here, you know, things started working out for me over here just as well as was over off Southeast Broad Street. You know. Before the construction came through, you know, it was a lot of traffic, you know, up and down Maney Avenue. You could say that was the main street. And so, but when the construction started, you know, it just really, the traffic just really got slower, and, you know, people wasn't coming through as much. And so anyway, my business kind of failed because I had people coming from Shelbyville, McMinnville, you know, Tullahoma, you know, Woodbury, you know, Nashville, you know, and they're not familiar with this area, you know. Everybody knows just one way, you know, of getting here. And sometimes now people come from Nashville, they still have to call me and ask me, okay, where do I turn or whatever. So it kind of fell off a little bit, you know, but now since they could get back through, now they begin to come back through, you know. But I knew the street much needed improvement, you know, in which I think, you know, it is good for them to do the improvement, you know. I know it would help business. Yes, it would help business, you know, a lot, because simply, you know, the area, when you work in an area, and if this area is going down, you know, you think a lot of people are gonna keep coming unless if they don't know this area? No, but when your area is fixed up, you know, just like your shop, if your shop is fixed up, you would draw people, you know, and I would think fixing up not only Maney Avenue, like I said, whole Murfreesboro, you can draw more people into Murfreesboro, you know.
The typical neighborhood barbershop is not just somewhere you go when you want to get a tight fade because you got a party to go to, or you got a cabaret or a wedding reception or whatever. It's a place where we come for, especially as young men would come, because especially in our community, unfortunately, there's not a lot of young black boys who know their fathers or have a real tight relationship with their fathers. So the barbershop is the one place you can pretty much bank on being able to find a number of positive black male role models that either are gainfully employed for some corporation, or they're self-employed, or you know, they've been wise with their money and figured out how to make their money make them money. So the conversation, as not just the business conversation, but I mean the spiritual uplifting, the emotional edification that is available in the barbershop, as probably outside of a religious place of worship, the number one spot that a young black man, or in the case of a young black woman, the beauty salon, is the number one spot where we can come to get that guidance and direction that we're so desperately lacking on the home front.
It feels good to know that I've made a change in the environment, in the community here. It's good to know that the way you walk, other people respect what you carry with you. You know, like they say, a good name goes a long way. And you know, for me to be out here to put my hands on people, you know, to bring their self-esteem up, you know, is very, very prideful. It's no ego tripping in it. It's that, you know, it makes me feel good at the end of the day that I've touched somebody in more ways than one. Whether if it's gave them $4 or $5 to get some gas or get something to eat, to, hey man, can you give me a haircut till I get paid? You know, that's the same way I look at it. You know, to me, the same customers that come in and pay me, and the ones that don't, I treat them the same way. You know what I'm saying? You still get the same cut, you know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna be no slacking in it, you know, and that's the thing that does my heart good, cause knowing that I paid it forward to somebody else, just like the other business owners that's been here before me, you know, whatever the reason why they left, you know, they left the door open for me, you know, they paved the way for me, like Mr. Lester, you know what I'm saying, Johnny Murray, Jesse Robinson, Thomas James, Joe Cross, I can go on, you know what I'm saying, but all those guys cut my hair when I was a kid, you know. My first haircut was at Elite Barbershop. you know, and from, I remember this day, I still remember crying, because I didn't want a haircut, you know, but after I got the haircut and saying, went to the old pop machine and you pull out the cold drink, you know what I'm saying, for 25 cents, you know, and felt good about it. As a kid growing up in this area, and remember the stores that used to be here, like the Winn-Dixie used to be down here on the corner where JD's Market is at, you know, always seeing Allen Chapel Church, then coming up this way, and once you got to past SEVIER Street, you knew you was in the black area, urban area, you know, and it made you feel good to walk up and see other black businesses in business, you know, seeing Mr. Fraser used to be up there, you know what I'm saying, then coming over here and seeing Mr. Joe Cross and Mr. Buki and Scales down that other way, you know, it made you feel like, man, you know, that's black pride, you know, like they overcome the obstacles and everything that other folks said they couldn't and stepped out to being this black businessman, you know. So that made me feel to myself, you know what I'm saying, like, man, you know, if they can do it, I can do it too, you know. So that's the will and drive I have. All this right here was predominantly black businesses, you know. I remember hearing the stories of a lot of guys come in, you know, talking about how it used to be hotels and nightclubs in this certain area. Ike and Tina Turner used to come here, B.B. King, all of those folks. I'm like, man, for real? You know, just to hear all those stories of guys coming in the barbershop, I'm like, man, you know, just telling the history of it, you know. So I'm like, man, so me being here as a young black man, you know what I'm saying, to see the changes and the upgrades and the downgrades of it, you know, it makes me feel good, you know, because I want my kids to grow up and realize, like, man, you know, we can't buy this, we can't find this in the school book. I'm saying you can't find this nowhere, but the barbershop, that's where you find the history at. I'm saying you really want to know your history, go to a barbershop. I've always been a business-minded person, from my grandfathers to my cousins and everybody, you know, and when you have that $1 million mindset and a $1 billion dream, you know, you look at, like, okay, I want to be this, I want to be that, you know, and every kid grows up, what you want to be a grow up? I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a nurse. I'm saying we all have a dream of what we want to be, you know, and then sometimes some things deteriorate. I plan to becoming something else, going another category. And for me, I've instilled in my kids, and not only my kids, but the kids coming here, and I'm saying, whatever you want to be something. I'm saying, be somebody, do something, you know, and like I tell them all the time, you know, I said, if you find something you love doing, I'm saying, and you do it well, you'll never have to work another day in your life, because that's what your passion is. And my passion is cutting hair. I'm saying, my passion is speaking to folks' life, talking to other people. I'm saying, open other avenues of my mind as well as everybody else's mind. You know, I love to be here to see the souvenir and coffee shops and the Baskin Robbins be on this block. I'm saying, and people coming and buying hot dogs from my stand out here. You know, and people coming in and getting a haircut, you know what I'm saying, hear about how the history and how the street used to be. I love to live the legacy of barber shops and beauty shops to my children.